mommies. Use this if you want to smell like that tea.
You never had to question if you were a man, so why give your money to a corporation that doesn't know if their products are made for men? Try Jeremy Razor's hair and body products. Jeremy shampoo and conditioner are made with tea tree oil to naturally clean and restore your hair and scalp, argan oil to soften your hair and not your masculinity, and aloe vera to moisturize the hair and scalp. It's all paraben-free, sulfate-free, phthalate-free, and most importantly, 100% woke-free. Not to mention, it smells amazing. Go to jeremyrazors.com and use my special code BURNS15 to save 15% off. That's jeremyrazors.com. Use my special code BURNS15 to save 15% off. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns. In today's episode, we are going to discuss the recent attack on the U.S., on U.S. soil. They're suspecting it is a terrorist attack. It just happened a few hours ago at the border on the entry from border to the U.S., from Canada to the U.S. So we're going to discuss that. We're going to get into that. And we are going to also discuss the Israel and Hamas talk. I guess they negotiate a ceasefire. They're going to let go some or release some hostages, Hamas and Israel. They're planning to release some hostages. So we're going to discuss that. And we got some other stuff to talk about Ukraine. Okay. So more and more news on today. We're going to get into it, you guys.
Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
That's right. So good evening on this glorious Thanksgiving Eve. You guys, I hope you have all your shopping done and actually are cooking if that's your duty. Now don't be making no whack ass macaroni and cheese or potato salad. So all your family gonna be talking about you. But hopefully if you can't cook, you're not on the cooking duties. But anyway, you guys, we have some things that's going on right as we speak. And it's kind of frightening because, you know, we're supposed to be giving thanks and, you know, celebrating with our family and friends. But of course, the devil is always busy. He wants to put a damper on your parade. But it looks like, let me just pull it up. It looks like they're clearing everything up from this explosion that happened earlier today in Canada. So what happened was there was some people crossing the border in a car, in a vehicle, and an explosion happened. So, and right now they're saying to confirm dead in this explosion. Screen. And this is right now I'm sharing you with CNN. And they're saying 2 confirmed dead. And I think they have some suspected injuries. But the FBI right now is investigating this explosion. Let's see who's in the chat. Ruben Gonzalez, thank you for tuning in. Hello. So we have two confirmed dead. Okay, so let me just play this, what they're saying on CNN. And I have some other video clips from...
Every tap is a turning point.
Of course, you're gonna play it.
And parents should have a say in.
I have some other video clips from Fox as well.
U.S. from Canada, and what has been described as some authorities as a crash, at that crossing there at the Rainbow Bridge, and then a subsequent somewhat explosion is what the FBI is describing. Now, whether or not this was sinister or not is not clear at this point. However, as you can imagine, at this point of entry, it's going to be an uptick in security across that area. So that is what we are seeing currently in response as this is still being investigated. We're hearing there's a system-wide security uptick at this point due to this explosion. That means there are going to be more security checks of cars in that area, around the airports in that area, and more security screenings of passengers who are coming in and out of this area. Now, of course, with the holiday, that was already sort of being an uptick, certainly as we've seen more travelers during this time, but this is sort of definitely raised it to another level.
Yeah, so it is at another level, and this screen that I'm showing you is by Ian Miles Chong. He's a guy that I follow on Twitter or X, and as you can see, there you really can't see where they crashed into it, but you can see the explosion in this far right hand corner. So, and that was about 11:30 this morning. Is 11:22 this morning. So, you know, they're suspecting that it might have been a terrorist attack, but I know that we've been on high alert since this Hamas and Israel conflict. It says Toronto police increased patrols throughout the city out of the abundance of caution. Toronto police said they are increasing patrols throughout the city out of the abundance of caution due to today's incident at the U.S.-Canada border. And it says the authorities have identified the registered owner of the vehicle, but are now uncertain about the number of passengers. So they know who was in the vehicle, but they don't know how many passengers were in the vehicle. And it says this happened at the Rainbow Bridge. The car came from the U.S. side and was traveling towards Canada, according to the law enforcement source, and another source briefed on the investigation. Law enforcement officials have conducted a video canvass of the surrounding areas in the hours since the incident occurred and found that the car appears to have been at a nearby New York casino before the incident. This is one reason officials are urging caution in labeling the explosion as an attempt terrorist attack, the law enforcement source says. So that's why they don't want to label, because they were at the casino. That doesn't matter. I mean, of course, you don't want to pre-label something as something, and it's not something, because you're going to have people acting crazy out there. So the FBI is working to identify the bodies of the dead occupants in the car and see if there's any evidence of explosion, but both sources says. And it says, trying to determine whether the car is registered to the driver at the scene, but conditions of the remains has made it difficult for the authorities to determine the identity of the driver on multiple sources. And they do have a, as I showed you, that's explosion from the camera. So they do have that. And I guess they're, trying to make sense of whatever transpired. Okay, so now and then you have CBS. CBS is is this it? CBS, yeah. CBS reported just a few minutes ago saying 2 people dead in the vehicle explosion at Rainbow Bridge as U.S.-Canada border crossing close near Niagara Falls. That's what they're saying. And it says sources says 2 people were killed in the explosion Wednesday afternoon at Rainbow Bridge and U.S. border crossing near Niagara Falls in western New York. Officials says 4 U.S.-Canada border crossings in the region has been closed as investigators respond to the situation. Multiple law enforcement sources confirmed to CBS 2 people died inside the vehicle that exploded. Okay. So this is what they have to say about that.
Mile from the famous waterfalls. Now, at this stage, sources tell CBS News 2 people who were inside that vehicle are dead. Federal authorities are investigating exactly what took place. Witnesses say they saw the car swerving erratically as it approached a border checkpoint. We understand the car was coming from Canada and headed toward the United States. There is some conflicting reports on that topic. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says local, state, and federal officials are investigating all of this. At this moment, there is an increased security posture in the area. For example, at Buffalo's airport, cars heading there are undergoing security checks. And it is clear that travelers in this area can expect additional screenings. Sergeant Kerry Schmidt of the Ontario Provincial Police Highway Safety Division joins us now to bring us the latest on this. I mentioned that it's unclear which direction this car was heading, according to some witnesses. So share with us the latest information you've been able to gather on the Canadian side.
Yeah, there's a lot of information, a lot of speculation as well. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection are dealing with that situation along with the FBI on the U.S. side. Result of that situation, we are dealing with an ongoing closure of the border crossings that connect Western New York State, Buffalo to Ontario, Canada. Right now, the Fort Erie Peace Bridge is closed in Buffalo, just south of Buffalo. The Niagara Rainbow Bridge, the Whirlpool Bridge, along with the Queenston-Lewiston Bridge, just north of, just up from Niagara Falls or Buffalo, New York, are all closed due to the ongoing situation at the Rainbow Bridge. The investigation, which is being managed, I guess, by the FBI on the U.S. side with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Again, our Canadian CBSA Customs and Border officers will be working together on any partnerships that need to be done in this investigation. I don't have any clear timelines on how long these closures will remain. We're waiting for updates from the investigators. And at this point, obviously, anyone who's traveling, planning on Thanksgiving journeys that will involve crossing the international borders between Canada and the United States, please wait and stand down until we have a clear picture of timelines of when this might take place, and then obviously when we can relieve the backlog of the traffic that's already waiting. So we don't want to see a large, gathering of people waiting, because that's a dangerous thing as well on the highways in the areas leading up to the borders. We're really in a waiting game here as the investigators are doing their important work and trying to secure the evidence and try to verify exactly what took place earlier this afternoon.
Yeah, that makes
One thing I want to point out. So you see CNN, let me just pull this back up. CNN saying that these guys were crossing, or whoever was in the car, they was crossing from New York. They were coming from a casino. But these guys, CBS is saying something different. Let me just share it with you what it says. Law enforcement officials had conducted a video canvass around the area in hours since the incident occurred and found that the car appears to have been at a nearby New York casino before the incident. This is one of the reasons officials are urging caution in labeling the explosion as an attempt terrorist attack. So why are they reporting two different things? This, to me, that's pretty weird. Oh, and on CBS report, it says on here, it says there has been conflicting earlier reports about which direction that the car was traveling, but Wednesday afternoon, a senior U.S. law enforcement official told CBS News that the car was coming from the U.S. side. The official said it hit the custom station and the vehicle is charred. It is not known why the car exploded. So I guess whoever was reporting this at the time, they went off the details what they thought they knew, but it was incorrect. Okay, so this car is actually, it was coming from the New York side. There were Canadian residents visiting New York. Well, we don't know if they're Canadian residents, but they were coming from the New York casino. Okay, so it says Mike Gunther, a Canadian resident visiting New York, said he was walking nearby this and saw the car speeding towards the border crossing. And he was flying over 100 miles an hour. There was a car in front of him. He swerved out, went in front of the car, hit the fence, went flying up in the air, and we just seen a fireball. That's all we could see, and there was smoke everywhere, he said in an interview. So it sounds like maybe the car probably swerved out of control, maybe. And it's nothing to be I guess it's unfortunate. And maybe the guy was drunk too, if you're coming from the casino. New York Governor Kathy Hochul said in a statement that she had been briefed on the situation at my direction. The New York State Police is actively working with the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force to monitor all points of entry to New York. She said, adding that she is on her way to Buffalo to meet with law enforcement and emergency responders. They're saying that the international airport is open and fully operational. Additionally, security measures in place until further notice. And right now, and you heard the guy, I guess maybe a FBI spokesperson or whatever, he just told everyone, if you're planning to cross the border, don't do it right now. Just wait till they give a go ahead for you to cross the border to visit with your family, because I guess this is a busy time of the year because it's Thanksgiving, right? So that's all about that. Let me see if they got any new updates. And right now they're saying there's no indication of a terrorist attack in a bridge from the big bridge explosion. And they're saying traffic resumes. Can we really trust the media? I'm not trying to say it's a terrorist attack or not, but I'm saying, like, this is the media. Can we really trust them to tell us the truth? We don't know. We really don't know. And we probably won't never find out either. So my next thing I want to get to, speaking of Israel and Hamas, Israel and Hamas, they have negotiated a ceasefire for, I guess 4 days. And Israel is allowing trucks to come in. Trucks to come in to supply, trucks of aid to supply or whatever. Of aid, but it's a 4-day pause. So what can we expect from that? This is a retired general on how Israel and Hamas will use their truce to their advantage. And of course,
Every tap is a turning point.
to an ad.
And parents
It says Israel agrees to hostage deal with Hamas. What? Okay, so Israel and Hamas reached a deal for a 4-day pause in fighting and release of at least 50 women and children held hostage in Gaza in a major diplomatic breakthrough nearly 7 weeks after the start of the conflict. Okay, let's see what he is talking about.
Can and can't you do essentially in a time frame like that?
Well, when it starts, let's look at it from the Israeli side. They'd like to replenish, relax, get a break for the troops that are in frontline contact, but can they really trust Hamas? So there'll be a period of doubt here, and they'll have to keep their guard up, and they'll consolidate their positions. They're inside Gaza, but they don't control Gaza. There are tunnel entrances. They're being shot at from behind on some occasions. So they don't really have any security in there. Maybe they'll rotate some troops in and out. On the Hamas side, they're going to use it to consolidate, replenish, resupply, reorganize, try to reestablish communications, and be ready for the next wave of the Israeli fighting. So this is a humanitarian effort. There'll be some humanitarian assistance that comes in. Unless there are some really strange, strong controls here, Hamas is going to get what it needs out of that humanitarian assistance and replenish its own fuel stocks or whatever. So this is, let's get the hostages out. That'll be a great thing. But this is far from over, Omar. And it's very dynamic. It's really hard to predict where it's going to go.
So it is far from over, but hopefully, 50 people. I think they said they had over 200 people there. I think it's sad, but hopefully, they'll figure out how to settle their differences without the U.S. being involved. That's my main purpose, or my main statement. That's how I feel about it. The U.S. doesn't need to get involved. Okay, I think we should just steer clear of that. They've been fighting forever. They go back and forth. But hopefully we have less casualties, especially with women and children. To me, that is really horrific and sad. Some of the images that I've been seeing on Hamas doing and Israel doing is sickening. It's really sickening. So that conflict is an ongoing thing. It says no hostages will be released before Friday, according to the Israel National Security. Previously, expectations has been that the first releases would take place as early Thursday. No reason was given for that apparent delay. The head of the UNICEF, so UNICEF, has called Gaza Strip the most dangerous place in the world right now to be a child, saying over 100 children have died per day for weeks. And that's, and like I said before, it's pretty horrible, the tragedies that's been happening with Israel and Palestine. So and it says Netanyahu says hostage deal does not include release of murderers from Israel. So they're planning to release some hostages, but they're not releasing any murderers. How do you classify them murderers? Because they're saying vast majority of Palestinians listed as eligible for release are male teenagers aged from 16 to 18, children under the nation's definitions, although a handful are young as 14. Some 33 are women, according to CNN. We spoke to U.S. President Joe Biden on Wednesday and thanked him for acting at my request. vis-a-vis the mediators to achieve a significant improvement in agreement, and such an improvement was indeed achieved. I believe that this is a combination of diplomatic and military efforts will allow the release of additional hostages in the next stages, says the prime minister. Okay, so they're planning to release the hostage, and like I said, hopefully they will be able to settle their differences. I don't think they will ever settle their differences. That's why I think we should like literally stay out of it. Okay, that's between Hamas and Israel. If we put our 2 cents in, yeah, put our 2 cents in, but we shouldn't put our 2 cents in any dollars. That's what I'm getting at. No more money. No more money to fund these international causes. No more. Speaking of no more money, your boy in Ukraine, Zelensky, he's crying me a river. He's crying me a river. Now, back in 2021, I guess they felt this brewing, this conflict brewing, ongoing conflict with Russia brewing. So they, and I'm speaking of they, Ukraine sent out a notice to all women between the ages of 18 and 60 to conscript as their country face conflict with Russia. Okay. They says with over now this is from Security Woman, calling women inclusion in security sector reform. I have my own thoughts on this. I think this is a horrible thing, but I guess equal rights, right? If we need to fight in a war, I don't want equal rights. I mean, if it comes down to it, I know how to use a gun to defend my home, but I don't want to go out on the front line to defend the nation because we have plenty of men to defend our nation. But reason why I'm saying Ukraine and Zelensky is crying me a river is because you have to depend on women of childbearing age to be a part of your military force. And not to say they're not able or incapable. I'm not saying that. I'm definitely not saying that. I'm just saying, like, when does it end? You lost so many people that now you're dependent on women to win this war. This war that they're calling a stalemate. Okay. It says with over 100,000 Russian troops on the country's border, Ukraine Ministry of Defense has updated regulations to expand its national reserves by requiring more women to register with armed forces. Now we're going to hear a report. This is a report on the U.S. side saying it was voluntary, but this doesn't sound voluntary. It says now women working in wide ranges of professions, including librarians, journalists, musicians, and psychologists, will be required to register for potential combat service. Women have been included in the Ukraine military since 1993. In 2020, more than 31,000 women were serving in Ukraine armed forces, and they're representing about 15% of their national force. Over 900 women held senior command positions, including 109 platoon commanders and 12 company commanders. And that was during 2014, during invasion of Donbass region by Russia forces. And you know, some of these women are accomplished, and it's saying that, you know, These ladies, they want to do their part. They want to serve. They want to serve their country. But when do we say, or why wouldn't they say, okay, no, your job is to make sure Ukrainian life is sustained? Is that wrong to say? Am I being like a chauvinist to say 18 to 60? The childbearing age, not 16. We know it's not 60, but 18 to 40. That's when you're having babies, and hopefully you have it before 40 because you'll be the maternal age gestation, whatever they call it, advanced maternal age. I think they put that on your paperwork. If you have a baby after 35, is maternal. I have to go back to my paperwork because I had my baby, my last child. I think I was 34. But anyway, what I'm getting at is why is this? It should be frowned upon, actually. I think it's a bad thing. I think it's a horrible thing, even though it's in Ukraine. I think it's a horrible thing for them to make it necessary for a woman to sign up, especially childbearing age. If you believe in life, in your people, you're saying, oh, enlist for this war that you might die in. And now who you gonna have to marry and bear children? But maybe, like I said, maybe I'm too old school and sound chauvinist. You guys put that in the chat, because weapons given to Ukraine found in Hamas hands. Imp said, when I was in the military, I found women in the military disruptive. I could see that. It caused a bunch of mess. My husband, his sister, she retired from the military, and she was a high-ranking officer. And actually her whole family, her husband, even their kids, they're all military. And but she's more like militant than, well, I guess her husband is real militant too, because he don't play shit either. But like, talking about running the tight ship, she like, what do they what make the bed, like what? She still runs marathons and all that crazy stuff. But anyway, hats off to her. You guys, anybody who's serving the military, thank you for your service. It's really appreciated. And people take they don't really look into, or they take it for granted. That's my word. They take it for granted of our freedoms, and they don't realize one of the reasons why we have so much freedom and able to walk around and not get locked down is because how strong our military is. Okay. But anyway, yeah, thank you for your service. And this gets me to this report I want to share with you. Like I said, they are saying that they're making it a requirement for Ukraine. But I believe this is on, no, this is not, this is Zelensky talking. I think this is it. This is on female fighters on ABC. Now, this aired about maybe 10 months ago, but they're sensationalizing this. They're sensationalizing, oh, stand with Ukraine. You know how people was having their, oh, Ukraine is we got to help Ukraine. You got the blue and yellow flag in your profile. Stand with Ukraine. I'm gonna read some of this sickening comments, but I'll let's listen to this. This writer of and and it's basically where am I at? It's basically and they're interviewing a woman and she's a sniper. And she literally left her kid at home, went to war, met this guy, got married, had a baby. Then she's planning on leaving her baby at home and go back to war. Like the insaneness of this doesn't make any sense. But I guess if you don't want a takeover, you want to go to war and fight for your country. And they got these initiatives to help. They're sending out. Anyway, I'll let you guys just listen to this. This to me is wild.
They still loaded up and lined up. Our Inez de Lucatera sat down with one of them to discuss her passion for the battlefield and beyond.
Why do you have a passion for the battlefield? Oh, I have a passion for the battlefield. That tells you women, they're not right in the head. You got a lot of women that's kind of crazy. I have a passion for killing people. Anyway.
By now, she's gained a few nicknames. Punisher of Russians and Ukrainian Joan of Arc.
I like Jeanne d'Arc, history Jeanne d'Arc. Yeah. And a lot of people said that she was a ginger like me.
Okay. Eugenia Emerald has become somewhat of an icon in Ukraine, fighting on the front lines as a sniper, the only woman in her unit.
How did they react when they saw that you were joining, that you were a woman?
Oh, they were shocked.
She's only one of more than 50,000 women now enlisted in the Ukrainian army, something that is mandatory for men, but women can also volunteer.
All Russians scare us.
They're scared. They're afraid of you.
Afraid of me.
Yeah.
Afraid of us.
Yeah.
Women, Ukrainian women. It's important.
In her case, it was her father who first taught her how to use a weapon.
When I was a little girl, I wished to be a sniper, not like a princess.
Wow. So even as a little girl, you wanted to be a sniper?
Yes, it was my dream.
Wow.
I think if my father now will alive, yes, we fight together in front line. Yes.
She then enrolled in a military program, and when war broke out in
And back to your comment, who said that? Act of kindness, or no? M said you found it to be disruptive. Look at her. She's a nice looking lady too. Just imagine. You got all these men and they haven't seen a woman in the like that could be kind of hard for her to deal with because you got this face to look at,
February, it was the Army that called her up. Emerald then making the difficult choice to leave her family behind, including her 11-year-old daughter.
They just crying.
They're just crying, yeah.
She says she just had to go. She's been everywhere now, from Kharkiv and Zhytomyr to Bucha and the battle for Kyiv. But she says being a woman on the front has its fair share of challenges, not only battling the common enemy, but also internal gender discrimination. One man she came into contact with initially saying her place was in the kitchen.
And then when they saw how good of a shooter you were, they must have been shocked and they must have eventually respected you.
It was later.
It was later.
They respect me later, yes.
Women on the front is a recent phenomenon in Ukraine. While up to 1/5 of Ukraine's armed forces are now women, it wasn't until 2018 that Ukrainian women were finally allowed to serve in combat positions. The surge of female soldiers so new and unexpected that Ukraine's military still doesn't have standard uniforms for women, meaning they're often handed men's uniforms. The Zemlachki NGO coming together to help female soldiers, sending women on the front care packages that include things like lighter body armor, tampons, and fitted uniforms. Helping women like Army medic Snitsana, who today brought her daughter with her.
Я не здивована, тому що жінки в Україні.
But she says she's not surprised so many women are enlisting.
Let's go. I really love American weapons.
Yeah?
Emerald, on leave in Kyiv, shows us her gear.
There is my toy. Yeah, what else? Oh, you know, I have...
She used her own car to drive out to the front, and alongside her helmet...
Your wedding dress! Oh my God! You still have your... Wow!
The wedding dress she's yet to put away. Because in the middle of it all, Emerald also found love. Her future husband reading about her and reaching out by sliding into her DMs on Instagram.
He rides...
Is this for real? Oh, let me get into her DMs because she's a sniper and she looks hot. And so they decided to get married. And they're a nice looking couple too, but it's like, is this for real? And that's why I said, are they trying to sensationalize being in the military? Oh, you could be in the military because you might run into this girl. Is this the average looking girl in Ukraine? Like, for real? So now you got all these men like, man, I want to go in the military.
That I'm proud of you. You're a very fantastic military woman. I'm military the same, and we started speak with each other. And it was very romantic.
She eventually took the train to meet him in person, but already knew he was the one.
You know, when he first time texted me, I called my mother and said, Mother, you know, I think I met my future husband.
And that's how they do in other countries. They talk one time. Oh, I think I met my future. Only in America, we dating like 10 years before we get married. In Ukraine, they talk on the phone and they get married.
2 weeks later, he proposed, the two eventually marrying on the battlefield near Kharkiv.
It's my mother.
That's your mom? Okay.
Amid all the death and destruction of war, Emerald now carrying new life.
Face my husband when he knows that he will have a daughter. You know, my first daughter, she is like a princess, really. But I think that my second daughter, yes, she will be like me.
She will be like you. Yeah. Okay.
And if she wants, I will teach her shoot.
How to shoot.
She says as hard as it would be to leave her two daughters now, she'd like to go back to the front eventually.
Ukrainian women are very strong, really, and all of us love our land.
It is precisely because of her daughters and because of their future that she risks it all.
It's the reason why I go to the war.
You're thinking about their future.
Yes.
Well, so that's that. Okay, so let me just read some of these comments on here. There's no greater honor than to fight for ones you love, to fight for your country and fight for those who cannot fight. Go Ukraine. Kudos and props to you, women who stepped up voluntarily to defend your country. I'm a combat veteran myself. I salute you. This woman is amazing. Her story and the way she told it is how she carries herself brings tears to my eyes. The Ukrainian people are patriotic and fearless and will fight for their country and their freedom and their children's future. If the Russians stop fighting, the war will be over. If the Ukrainians stop fighting, their country will be over. Absolutely brave warriors. Respect to the women voluntarily fighting for their beloved homeland. And I bet you all these are American people. These are Americans. Nothing but respect for the brave women fighting for their freedom. This is so beautiful. So happy she's able to fight for her family and other people. Amazing story. It's like I said, there's nothing wrong with women joining the military, but reason why I don't care for this story is because you're acting like all of them going in as snipers, and you're sensationalizing war, and they showing her laying in the bushes with her filtered face on. She got her whatever lipstick on, and that's not war. War doesn't look like that. I've never been in a war, but I could assure you it doesn't look like that, especially not on the front lines. And I truly believe God gave you a womb, especially if you're a childbearing age, is not to destroy your body in a war. It's basically to keep life going. And then it might sound chauvinist, it might sound, old school, but I truly believe that. And now I'm not knocking people that, because you got some females, they sign up. And like I said, I was going to sign up for a military. I was like 17 going on 18. And my mom looked at me like, hell no, you ain't doing that. But I didn't have nothing to do, From the hood, didn't have nothing to do, had mediocre grades. I wasn't going to college, So I was like, I'm not about to get pregnant by nobody. So I was like, well, military, I probably could get some training on something. So that's the reason why I wanted to join, not because it was an active war going on to fight for literally my country. And that's probably said, maybe that's just the American privilege I have to think like that. It wasn't because, if somebody invade our country, I want to fight. Now, maybe my tune would change if somebody was invading, if we were getting like an active invasion, maybe my tune would change, because I do have children that I'm bringing up, and maybe I would be like, maybe I would go, or maybe not, because my husband probably be like, no, you stay your ass at home and raise the kids. So I don't know. That's just my whole thought process. But I said what I was getting at before. Zelensky is very desperate. Emperor, you have a point there. Snipers are not the front lines. I am only half sniper, good at hiding only. I could just imagine that, your helmet with all the bushes on there. You got trees, branches coming out your back. Emperor, they dressed her for the story. Campaign recruitment fun, huh? Winter dress white, think she would be dressed red, not a virgin. I'm not gonna read y'all comments. Some of you guys saying arranged marriages. Yeah, maybe they do they have arranged marriages in Ukraine? I don't think so. I think they're more like Russia. Do they have arranged marriages in Russia? I know in other countries like India, and somebody put India has arranged marriages. But I think Zelensky is desperate because Zelensky was just on they interviewed him on Fox Okay, Benjamin Hall. Benjamin Hall, I guess he's a wartime reporter, and he was over in Ukraine reporting. He was injured. He was nearly killed while covering the war in March of 2020. And now he's back over there. So he's back over there and he's interviewing Zelensky. And this is what Zelensky had to say.
Will last for years. Inside Kyiv, we pay tribute to all those who have died, amongst them our colleagues Pierre Zakchevsky and Sasha Kushinova. And we spoke to President Zelensky, both about the successes and the hardships.
The eyes of the world have moved elsewhere. They're looking at Israel. How has that affected you?
Yes, you are right. It doesn't have good influence on Ukraine. It doesn't help us. But we understand that this is also a challenge for the world, Middle East, the situation in Middle East. And we are trying to help from our side how we can. I know that is really was big wish of Russia to do it, what been done on the Middle East, and with the help of their Iranian partners.
A growing number of Americans who think that the money being spent in Ukraine is too much, so that should be spent in America. What would your message be to them to tell them that this war does matter?
First of all, to Americans who've been with us during this war, for their support. But of course, if we're speaking about the Congress, about the unity around the help of Ukraine, of course, this month is the difficulties. Many times we are ready for co-production. We're ready, and it can be win-win. We need licenses and we can produce air defense. We will defend Ukraine, but also when you defend with the great success, the great results, your product, that is the product of the United States, for example, Petros. So the price will be very high. That is business, and that is important. The second, you will when you produce it for Ukraine and with Ukraine, you produce it also with Americans. So the big part will be production in your states, different states. Yes, also in Ukraine. That is jobs for Americans and for Ukrainians. It's very important. I hope that Congress will help us, and I hope that the help of United States will be around Ukrainian people. And I hope that the United States will be with us against Russian terrorism. So we are fighting for common values.
I'm just trying to, I didn't hate to cut him off, but he's talking about drones. He said we gave a lot of messages to Iran not to give Russia drones, not to give them licenses for productions and for building new factories of productions of drones. Okay, so he says per Pentagon, Russia has relied on Iranian supplied unmanned aerial vehicles in Ukraine throughout the war to compensate for diminishing stockpile. Zelensky argued that Ukraine is at the center of a global risk, and Russia will continue to be emboldened by its action without significant pushback from the global community. Why? My question is, okay, why are we buying drones from Iran? Is this true? That's what it sounds like? He's saying that and he's trying to, I guess, build a factory in Ukraine for drones, and it will be U.S. and Ukrainians profiting from this. It says Ukraine setbacks come ahead of the U.S. presidential election, which will found implications for continued support of the war. Former President Trump, the lead Republican candidate 2024, has said he could get a peace deal very quickly. And it prompted him to invite Trump to Ukraine, Zelensky. So far, continued support war effort ultimately hinges on the aid package passed by Congress. Biden has called the Congress to support $106 billion supplemental spending bill to allocate $61 billion for Ukraine, $14 billion for Israel, and $13 billion for the border, and about $10 billion for humanitarian aid. No, I'm telling you, no, yes, no. No for Ukraine, no for Israel. No, yes for the border, and $10 billion for humanitarian aid, depending on who are we aiding. Well, it doesn't depend on who are we aiding. You can't fund a war. You can't fund a war and then say, oh, the guys we funded, they beat you up, so we're going to give you $10 billion. So you're sending mixed messages. That's why I said no. Okay? No on the aid, no on the aid to Israel, no on the aid to Ukraine. Yes, funding the border. And they're planning to give, Biden still haven't heard the message from his own supporters. They're saying you're funding Israel and you're so forget the Palestinian people. This is what his main supporters are saying. You're funding Israel, and even Israel had the right to defend themselves. But I think anyway, I'm not gonna tread down that path. But what I'm saying is he's not even listening to his own supporters. He's not, because he's still trying to pass this aid to Israel and this aid to Ukraine. Now, his supporters do support the Ukraine, or maybe they don't. I'm not for sure. I don't know if they changed their minds or not. But $61 billion and you having problems with immigration in your own country, which is really ridiculous. Okay. When you produce for Ukraine and with Ukraine, you produce it also with Americans. So the big parts, okay, so this is what he's saying. I hope that Congress will help us, and I hope that the help of the United States will be around Ukrainian people. And I hope that United States will be with us against Russia terrorism. Speaking to growing numbers of Americans who believe the funds will be better spent on Americans, Zelensky note that much of the money goes back into U.S. through productions and jobs. When you produce for Ukraine and with Ukraine, you produce it. You're talking about defense. This is what he's talking about, defense jobs, because we're in a war. You want us to be in this war and supply you whatever. But that's not helping like the everyday people. People that's working for these defense companies, they got to have Secret Service clearance. They're not getting Mojo off the street saying, hey, come and help and produce these weapons. That's not helping regular, normal, everyday people. It's not helping them. Zelensky, and it's helping the uber rich. It might help, what's that, Nikki Haley is helping her because she has big money in Boeing and all these defense contracts. But it's not helping you and I. So what is he saying? So the big parts will be productions in your state. Zelensky played down reports of the stalemate between Ukraine and Russia, pointing to incremental progress in the Black Sea. No. Each day, I think that we had or have success. Zelensky said in Crimea, we had success in the Black Sea. We really destroyed part of Russia's fleet. They don't have such total influence on the Black Sea region. Do you get the sea or do you not? It's like they don't have all the Black Sea. Like, how big is the Black Sea? It's a sea. Like, what is he's if he would be able to talk great English, he's talking in circles. You really don't understand what he's saying because he doesn't speak really great English. All we know is that they're losing. And they're losing a lot of people. And that's why they're pulling females' voluntary cards saying, oh, yeah, we want to draft you. Okay. And then you had the Defense Secretary, Austin, visiting Ukraine and urges Congress to pass additional aid to fight Russia. This was just a couple of days ago. It says Austin visit Ukraine, where he will be meeting with Ukrainian officials to relay a message of solidarity with Ukrainian people, expressing that the American stands firmly behind the Eastern Europe country in its war with Russia. Austin, why are you lying to him? Your Congress did not pass the bill because they didn't put Ukraine in the bill. That's why they didn't pass it. And the Senate pushed it back to them because it didn't have no Ukraine funding. And President Joe Biden wants to give them $61 billion, and everybody's saying no. Besides Democrats, don't know why they're doing that. But besides the Democrats.
Watching all these developments. Dan, you've heard the back and forth on the wisdom of this 4-hour daily pause in fighting. And of course, it can be interrupted at any time. It might have seen a hint of that today. What do you think of it?
Well, I think it just reflects the challenge for Israeli Defense Forces because Hamas deliberately embeds their fighters in civilian neighborhoods. Look at that Shifa hospital. It's a Hamas command center. The tunnels, they found tunnels beneath children's rooms in residential homes. And so that's the challenge that the Israelis face, that Hamas deliberately induces these sorts of attacks and doesn't draw a distinction. In fact, puts their innocent Palestinian brethren in harm's way. And that's the narrative that Hamas wants. And sadly, many across the world, including in our own country, are vulnerable to accepting that.
I'm wondering, too, what you think of how the rest of the world is responding to this. We know that Vladimir Putin is paying extra attention to his forces in Ukraine, maybe saying that they will continue to fight the good fight, but maybe recognizing an opportunity here where our attention is turned to Israel, not at the expense of Ukraine, but maybe that's what Vladimir Putin is hoping. What do you think?
Yeah, I think absolutely Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping see the United States stretched dealing with the war in Ukraine, dealing with the war in Gaza, and then having to deter Chinese aggression in the South China Sea and against Taiwan. Russia very much is at the center of this. They're relying on Iran for drones, but they're also giving Iran a lot. They've been reportedly planning to give Hezbollah air defense. And of course, they're shipping off their hydrocarbons to China, one of the only markets remaining to them. And so the war in Ukraine, I think, is very much intertwined with what we're seeing in the Middle East. And I think the challenge for the Biden administration is to manage all three of those challenges simultaneously.
You know, when we're talking about the Middle East, I did want to get your thoughts, Dan, on what happens after this battle with Hamas is done, hopefully sooner rather than later. Israel has more or less said that they're going to obviously have to watch over the region, have a long-term sort of a role in deciding its future, but not everyone's keen on that. I know Israel isn't necessarily keen on Qatar being among the countries, along with Egypt, that might decide the new Gaza, whatever form it takes. They don't like the fact that Qatar has so many Hamas bigwigs living the good life in that country. What do you make of all this?
I'll tell you, when I served in Iraq, oftentimes we'd say, today was a pretty bad day, but at least tomorrow is going to be just a little bit worse. It's just awfully hard to be optimistic about anything. The near-term goals for Israel and for us writ large, defeat Hamas, wipe them off the face of the earth. That's what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said. Save as many hostages as possible and try to deter a wider war with Iran. But lingering over that is the post-conflict reconstruction plan. We learned that lesson from Iraq, where we failed to do that. And as a result, we faced a Sunni insurgency. In order to drive a wedge between the innocent Palestinian civilians and the Hamas terrorists, you've got to offer Palestinians good governance and economic opportunity. And Israel cannot be at the center of that. I think it has to be the region, Egypt and Jordan, taking a leading role with Saudi Arabia. I think Qatar could play a role, and a very good role. But Israel should not be responsible for occupying Gaza in the post-conflict reconstruction phase. Now, General Votel, former commander CENTCOM, says this phase, the war phase, could take weeks to months. So we've got some time. But Israel would do well to start the planning process now.
Got it. Dan, thank you so much, my friend. Dan Hoffman, following all those developments.
One thing I wanted to point out, did you guys see that on the corner they had
war with Iran, but lingering over that is the post-conflict reconstruction plan. We learned that it's just awfully hard to be
let's see if it paused.
Optimistic about anything.
They said 47
for Israel and for us writ large.
47 attacks on U.S. military forces since October 17. This is just in the Middle East. 47 attacks on U.S. military forces since the whole conflict happened between Hamas, or since Hamas invaded Israel. So what I was getting at is Ukraine and we have 3 conflicts, like they said, in Taiwan too. But and the U.S. is trying to facilitate all of these, and they, are enemies. So, quote unquote, our enemy. Number one, you invited Xi Jinping to San Francisco, which is really crazy to me. You're having a conference in San Francisco with a person, the very person the very person is causing a lot of strife for your own country. And you they had Chinese flags hanging up like it was China in San Francisco. Did you guys see that? And you got the 2 other conflicts that China is in the middle of. They're in the middle of it. Let me just show this to you. Twitter. Before I go to that, this is what I was talking about Ukraine. Like I said, Ukraine is really desperate right now. This is a grandmother. After 500,000 Ukrainian deaths, Zelensky is taking middle-aged women to the fight. Collective West never cared about Ukrainians. Soon Ukrainians will cease to exist as a viable state. She's saying it's a great honor. Only men, but also women have to, I guess, serve. Anyway, this is a woman, a grandmother. That's why I said they have to be desperate. Anyway, back to my bookmarks. This is Zelensky before I guess he got it. He's up there gyrating. That's the leader of their country. Gyrating and stuff. This is another Ukrainian soldier. She has a thing on her head, I guess, to film it. But she was injured, you know. I don't know what she's saying, but
I see. It's nothing. Yes. International.
so this is what the front line looked like or close to it.
No, please no. I'm scared, Mike. I'm so scared.
Yeah, keep walking. Yep, keep your eyes peeled.
I'm trying.
Everyone pick.
Зашли на позиции. Ёбаный в рот, для ЗСУ. Ебануться. Нормально начали. Пиздец, блядь. Серьезно, что ли? Ебать. Интересно, мобилизованная, блядь, или идейная? Сучара, блядь. Высушная. На 10, а потомства нету, сука. Довоевалась, блядь. Тиктоки наснимала. Нормально насобирал? Пиздец просто. Шейтёлки, блядь.
See, these are women. And I guess he's saying, you know, did you get your film for TikTok? It says, we haven't heard a lot about Ukraine lately. Let's check on them and see how Zelensky is doing with the billions of dollars. No more men to send to the meat grinder, so now they're sending women. What's next, children? And I guess they had some type of singer, I guess, in wherever hall they're in, and they don't look too enthused. They all look like, okay, we don't need to hear this, whatever she's saying. And this is Lloyd Austin, you know, pledging his support for Ukraine.
Second visit since the war started. I was here in April of 2022. Since that time, the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, which, as you know, is a group of about 50 nations that work together to provide much-needed security assistance to Ukraine. That group has...
That group is what?
This is my third visit to 50 nations that work together to provide much-needed security assistance to Ukraine. That group has roared into action, and we have continued to work together to provide much-needed security assistance. I wanted to reassure the leadership that the United States of America will continue to support Ukraine. It's great to be back in Kyiv. This is my third visit to Kyiv.
So why I don't know, Secretary of Defense is lying to him. Why? But what I was getting at is Zelensky is desperate, and then you have Xi Jinping. He's in the middle of all these conflicts too. He's supplying stuff or Russia is supplying stuff to China, vice versa. They're trading services. Now, remember, I told you we had that OPEC conference last week, and they cleaned up the city. And I guess at the end, some of the people just got tired of seeing these Chinese flags. They like, you in America, Jack. This ain't China. I don't know where you thought this is not China. So they went through and started tearing down. And they do nothing. It's not funny. Violence is not funny, but the guy at the end, he was like, no, that's our flag. I don't know how Chinese people will sound, but anyway, no, you break, you buy. That's our flag. No tear down flag. It's China. This is Chinatown. Just in citizens. Citizens of California had enough of CCP flags now being torn down in San Francisco by angry protesters. This is developing. This happened a couple of days ago, though. You know, they had the gates. They tried to, I guess, keep the visitors safe from all the drug addicts and all these people that loiters in San Francisco. So they had, and you see, they got the gates on the sidewalk so nobody could come through. And they was like, shit, this is our state, our city, and this is our country. So they went down, tearing down the China flag, the Chinese flag. You trying to make things like China, and this is not China. We're not going to deal with that. You can have your conference here, but you're not going to hold your flag up like you're in China. That's not going to happen. So they got mad and they tore it down. And it's total disrespect, because while they clean up the city, you cleaning up the city for the very guy that caused your fentanyl problem. The very guy that's causing your fentanyl problem, you cleaning up the city. You're rolling out the red carpet from him. And speaking of cleanup, remember I reported the story. It's a miracle. They cleaned up the city. The homelessness is gone. Well, the homeless has reappeared. The homeless and the shit is back on the streets. They're back on the street in full effect. They're saying. They're saying that it looked like they never cleaned up. They never cleaned up this shit. And you got some business owners that is so upset about what's going on. San Francisco business owner sounds off on mayor downplaying crime, homelessness, poop everywhere again. Poop everywhere again.
Homelessness and crime are clearly a problem in San Francisco, so much so that Governor Newsom literally swept the streets and put up barricades before China's president stopped by. 2 international reporters were robbed at gunpoint even after all that effort, but San Francisco's mayor wants you to ignore all of it.
When you look at the data of what is happening with our...
Listen to this nut job. That you could tell something's wrong with her head. One flown over the cuckoo's nest. She's like blatantly lying to the public and lying to the people, like we can't look up statistical data. Like people don't report the statistics. But listen to what she's saying.
Crime numbers over the past 5 years, they are... When you look at the data of what is happening with our crime numbers over the past 5 years, they are showing a decline, especially with car break-ins, burglaries, and other challenges that people are talking about. And in comparison to other U.S. cities, San Francisco is really at the bottom. So I get that people feel that there are problems and there are concerns. They see the viral videos and they think, oh, what's going on in San Francisco?
Tom Wong is a San Francisco business owner, and he joins me now. Tom, help the mayor answer that question. What is going on in San Francisco?
Oh, it's horrible. I just drove through the Tenderloin, and it is just all the drug heads, the drug dealers, and they're all out. They're all out in the neighborhood. It's less than 24 hours, and it's back to the same thing. It is crime-ridden. It is druggies everywhere. There's needles everywhere. There's poop everywhere again.
Disgusting. Her argument seems to be, look, we aren't as bad as other cities in our country. But take a look at these stats, comparing San Francisco crime stats from last year to this year. 2% increase in homicide, 12% increase in robbery, 7% increase in motor vehicle theft. You know, considering those other cities that she's comparing San Francisco to are literally hellscapes right now, should she really be putting lipstick on a pig like this?
Oh, absolutely not. She has to own up to her failure. The Democratic policies really don't work. 80% of San Franciscans really don't like what's going on, and they really want to change, and she's not listening. I don't know where she's getting her stats from, but she's lying to the people. It's not true. We are suffering here. We're continuing to suffer. Less than 24 hours, we're back to the same type of crime, homelessness, drug use, the people hanging out everywhere. Car break-ins are on the rise again. Homeless people are returning in less than 24 hours.
She went on to tout her homelessness policies. I'm curious, as a San Francisco resident, somebody who has a business there in San Francisco, what you think that policy is, because to me it looks like she's referring to the policy of, you know, when the Chinese dictator Xi Jinping comes, like you mentioned, taking all those homeless and moving them somewhere else so that he doesn't see them. But then, like you said, immediately upon Xi leaving, those homeless are back on the streets. What is this policy she speaks of, Tom?
It's just a shell game. It's to hide the homeless when the dignitaries are here, and when the cameras are on, hide it, pan a little to the left so you don't see all the deplorable state that the city's in. And when they're gone, I mean, it's still here. They just need to own up to their failed policies, and we want something that will fix our homelessness, our crime issue, our drug issues. Maybe she could take pointers from former Mayor Giuliani. I mean, he fixed New York.
Literally fixed New York within a span of 2 to 3 years. You went from not being really comfortable walking around this city to beautiful, but then, of course, it has degraded again. Before we let you go, we mentioned you're a business owner. Your business is security. Should anyone feel secure in London Breed's San Francisco?
Oh, no, definitely not. She has made this place so insecure right now. I mean, businesses are being burglarized and broken into. We just stopped reporting it. We just stopped filing the claims with the insurance because we're afraid our insurance are no longer covering our business. And that's why we stopped filing reports. A lot of my clients stopped filing it because of that. They don't want to get their insurance raised or canceled. And it's expensive enough right now. We don't need the extra burden.
And that's not how the system is supposed to work. You know, these policies like insurance exist for a reason, so that if you are wronged, you can get compensation. This is not how it works there in London Breed, San Francisco. Tom Wong, thanks for your time this morning. Appreciate it, sir.
This is what we have to deal with when you have, I hate to say it, Democratic policies. This is Democrat policies at its finest. And they're walking around like, oh, we did a good job for those 5 days. Like, no, you're doing a horrible job. And if you're saying your main, if you guys go back to that my channel, because I separated the video. I know I covered it in my live stream, but go to my channel. And if you haven't seen it, what did I put it under as? Let me see. Oh, yeah. It's about a 30-minute video. It's called It's a Miracle. It's this one right here. They had a guy on there saying, "Oh, San Francisco, our main economics or business, what is it called? Our main economics for San Francisco is tourism. Who wants to visit San Francisco when you got a deal? And then what areas are they visiting? Okay, you go on the Golden State Bridge, but that looks like a piece of shit. Where's the nice areas at? Because half of downtown looks horrible. So who's visiting San Francisco and who will take the risk? Because, like I said, it's nothing wrong with a major city having pockets. You know, you have pockets of bad areas. Oh, don't go in that area. You might get robbed. Don't go to, but every area in San Francisco is dangerous. You might get robbed. Even the nice areas are dangerous. The guy that's over the Cash App got killed in the alley. He was in a nice area, or supposedly, or allegedly, but he got killed. He got stabbed. And no police was around, so he probably could have survived his wounds. But no. There were no police presence in that area, so. And then you have this mayor talking like, "Oh, it's no big deal. Oh, our numbers are compared to everybody else's numbers. They look wonderful." Like what rock are you smoking?
What is going on in San Francisco?
And their concerns, they see the viral videos and they think, "Oh, what's going on in San Francisco?"
And she claims it's a viral video. It's not the viral video. It's just you are not doing your job. And you only did your job briefly because of this Xi Jinping came to town. And to me, it's disgusting. And like I said, in that last video, we did discuss they already had the money. They just refused to use the money or the resources on this type of stuff to keep their own citizens safe. If I was a business owner, I wouldn't want to move in San Francisco or live in San Francisco. I'll move. I wouldn't even want to live in California. I will move away from California. As hard as it is to establish yourself as a business owner in a new place, I will uproot my family and move out of California. That's what I would do. And their taxes is high. So what's the incentives of staying in California? There's none. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. And the last thing I want to talk about is immigration. You know, Greg Abbott, he's planning to sign this bill. And this bill is a very controversial bill. And I could see where they're coming from. The people who saying it's controversial, but I think it's a needed bill because you have your federal government that is not securing the border. And they're the main people of the border. So they're going to have to secure it on their own terms. So the bill basically proposes that if you cross the border illegally, a police officer has the right to return you or fine you, number one, fine you up to $1,000, I think they said, and return you back to the border where you crossed at. And this is what they're talking about.
Senate Bill 4, which gives Texas the authority to arrest undocumented migrants and even send them back across the southern border. If he does so, he can expect a legal challenge. The American Civil Liberties Union and the League of Latin American Citizens have already said they will both file lawsuits against the state if and when that bill is signed into law. And in Congress, Texas Democrats are pressuring the Biden administration and the Department of Justice to intervene.
That is why we must call on the federal government and on the Biden administration to block these extreme, anti-immigrant, and unconstitutional proposals.
Should a legal battle come, it seems all but destined for higher courts, possibly even the Supreme Court, to decide who has authority over the southern border, the federal government or the state of Texas. State Republicans writ large have backed the policy.
There's nothing unfair about ordering someone back from where they came if they arrived here illegally.
But even there, the question of constitutionality has cropped up, notably from State Senator Brian Birdwell, a Republican who authored similar versions of this policy before that didn't pass and voted against this version, now that it gives Texas the authority to send migrants back across the border.
For the short-term messaging you gain between our two chambers, during this election season, we are setting a terrible precedent for the future by invalidating our obedience and faithfulness to our Constitution. President Biden's failure to obey his oath does not compel us to violate ours.
As if that weren't enough pressure on the southern border, the Mexican government, too, has come out in opposition to the policy, writing that government categorically rejects any measure that allows state or local authorities to detain and return Mexican or foreign nationals to Mexican territory, setting the stage for yet another battle at the border.
Mexico said, we don't want them. If they cross, they yours forever. You don't send them back over here. We don't want that. Like I said, I could see both sides. I think where the problem is, we are not putting the responsibilities on the federal government. You have to force them to act. But it is Texas. That's his state. It just happens to border Mexico. So what is Greg Abbott supposed to do? He's going to continue to bust people out into the U.S., further harming other cities. And then he wants to relieve some of this pressure. Now, does he have enough police force to do this? We're not for sure. But I believe this is the job of Homeland Security. This is the job of U.S. Border Patrol. This is the job of the federal government. You guys put it in the chat. Let me know what you think about that. Put it in the chat. But Greg, he said he's tired of it. He's about to put some in action. Some people are saying that it's discriminatory. It could be discriminatory. And I could see that because they're saying, oh, they might profile. This is totally off subject. This is an immigrant, homeless. This person is homeless, allegedly. Probably just crossed the border. How the hell he got a dog? You guys, I'm sorry. I didn't even share a tab with you. Let me you'll see what I'm talking about.
To law. Senate Bill 4 would criminalize immigrants who illegally cross the U.S.-Mexico border, and some in Houston's Latin American community believe it will do more harm than good. Our Shelby Rose has more.
Let's not make any mistake about this. We're being targeted.
A new immigration policy may soon be law in Texas. Senate Bill 4 would make it a misdemeanor to illegally cross from Mexico into Texas while empowering local police to arrest undocumented immigrants. And it's now heading to Governor Greg Abbott's desk.
And it's very disappointing that he would be so adamant about passing this law. If you want to do something, let the federal government handle it. Let the Republicans and Democrats come together so they can pass some kind of comprehensive immigration policy. Yes, we need it desperately.
Under the proposed law into Texas while empowering immigrants. And it's now heading to Governor Greg Abbott's desk.
About passing this law. If you want to do something, let the federal government handle it. Let the Republicans and Democrats come together so they can pass some kind of comprehensive immigration policy. Yes, we need it desperately.
This is the dog I was saying about. But back to what she is saying, they're not doing nothing. The federal government is not doing nothing. So that's why he's acting on something. You know, it's become overwhelming. So since he's in Texas, he's the governor. He probably told them, okay, come up with something so we could fix at least our border problem. We don't care about the other states, but we're going to fix Texas border problem. So that's why he's tired of waiting. The people down in Texas are tired of waiting. And is basically they're trying to actually protect, you, a citizen of Texas. But how in the world this immigrant, this is an illegal immigrant, did he cross with this dog? Where did he get the dog from? What is going on here?
Under the proposed law, the charge can be enhanced to a felony if a migrant is accused of other crimes or doesn't follow a judge's orders to return to Mexico. But there are provisions that do not allow officers to target people in churches, schools, and hospitals.
This is what it takes.
Regardless, LULAC, or the League of United Latin American Citizens, brought together local stakeholders to outwardly oppose the legislation.
What we have to do is recognize it for what it is. It's to divide our state, divide our country. And we all stand united today to work with Washington for a meaningful immigration policy.
Multiple elected officials standing in opposition, including Houston Councilman Robert Gallegos, the only Latin American represented in City Council.
I want criminals behind bars. I want those that are robbing and raping and murdering to be behind bars, not someone that crossed the border to support their families. That makes no sense.
It's a sad all over. And people call themselves Christians. I don't get it. I just don't.
And, some of these people that's crossing the borders are criminals. That's why they're crossing the borders. Okay, so you just trying to act like all these people that's crossing the borders are good to do people. They're not. They're not. The last few murders that I covered on this, my show, they've been immigrants. And I'm not talking about the mass shootings. I'm talking about escape convict. They were immigrants, illegal immigrants that came over to the board, came over here, did some type of crime in Guatemala, Venezuela, Mexico, and they came over here, did the crime here again, and escaped from prison. It was the last guy I covered. I forget what his name is, but he was an immigrant. The guy before that, he was an immigrant. So stop it. I know these are your people, maybe, but you can't You can't just put them all in one bucket. Some of them are bad people. And you can't just say, oh, wait for the federal government to do nothing, because you know Joe Biden, he's been in office for 3 years. He's been sitting on his, when Title 42 expired, they should have had something in the works before Title 42 expired. And everybody was like, oh, you know, Title 42 is going to expire. It's going to expire. That was in March, and they didn't do nothing. And haven't did nothing. So what do you expect people to do? You won't say the same tune until some of these people that's trying to feed their family steal from you, rob you at gunpoint, knock you over the head. Then you'll probably be like, oh yeah, maybe we need some type of immigration reform in our state. So I'm not the only concern of mine is if they're doing this policing, do you have enough manpower? Do you have enough manpower? I don't think so. Big Lo said they're not homeless, they're UN soldiers. They're not migrants. Look at the group of, there's no older people with them. It's funny how they're staying at the police stations where all the guns are at, right? 5 kilometer zone patrolled by drone, landmines, other right tech protections devices along the border with the sign saying, stay out or perish. I had a client of mine, he has a sign over his door before you enter his house. He said, nothing in this house is worth your life. He's an avid gun owner, but yeah, he has this sign. Nothing in this house is worth your life. So try it if you want to. Was F around and find out. That's what. Stay out or perish. That's funny. Yeah, so this is what we're, I'm about done now. Okay. So we're done with our business talks today, you guys. I really appreciate every single last one of you. Stay tuned. We're gonna get online around noon tomorrow. I'll try to do a Thanksgiving special. I'll try to do a Thanksgiving special tomorrow. And Friday, I'll be online too. I got some more news about Tiffany Henyard too. So Friday, that's what I'm just gathering up some more information about her. So we'll be discussing her on Friday. Okay, you guys enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving Eve. I appreciate every single last one of you. I am sending all my good to you. I will talk to you tomorrow.